ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಈ ವಿಶೇಷ ಸಂದರ್ಶನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಕಣ್ಣನ್ ಗೋಪಿನಾಥನ್ ಅವರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಏನೂ ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಮಹತ್ವದ ಸಂಗತಿಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಚರ್ಚೆ ನಡೆಸೋಣ. ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ನೀವು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊಸಬರಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನನಗೆ ಈಗ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯಿತು. ಆದರೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕನ್ನಡ ನೀವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಬಟ್ ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಯು ಸಮ್ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಇಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಸೊ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸ್ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ರನ್ ದ ಸಬ್ ಟೈಟಲ್. ಸರ್, you quit service in protest to the curbing of rights of people of Kashmir, of course following with the abrogation of Article 370. It's been the 71st day that as we speak today, and some sort of communication has been restored. But then did you expect more sort of a support or public outrage on this issue when you quit?
Yes. To begin with, ಕನ್ನಡ ಕಲಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತು, ಮಾತಾಡಬಲ್ಲ. So I'll also answer in English. So thank you for having me. And see, the resignation was not per se on the decision of the government. The government, as I said, it's always power maximizers. It tries to do all these things. And 370 per se is, whether they're right or not, whether it's constitutional or not, will be decided by the Supreme Court. Whether the people agree with it or not will be decided during a later period. But the way in which the rights, fundamental rights of an entire population has been taken away, and the way in which the rest of the country failed to respond or responded, is something that shook me to the core. See, because the media said they started showing that you are celebrating, the Kashmiris are celebrating. Do we really remember earlier we were shown that Kashmiris are celebrating? Do we believe it now? So, but we all believed then that Kashmiris are happy. That's what we were made to believe. But anybody who is who has a little bit of sense would understand how a proud population like Kashmiris would respond to such a thing. Their civilian leaders, MPs, elected MPs, previous chief ministers, all of them have been put under detention, house arrest. An IAS officer who was resigned recently, Shah Faisal, was detained from Delhi and taken to Kashmir, Srinagar. And then his habeas corpus petition came to judiciary, and judiciary gave 15 days for the government to respond to the petition. Habeas corpus is a very fundamental petition. So you see, your civil society did not protest, or political opposition did not protest to the way it. So this failure, the country is not just the government. Government is one part. There are so many other things which is in the country. And when we collectively fail, it's not the government that is failing, it's a nation that is failing.
That's why you kept saying, I remember reading one news article, you said that if you remain silent, then you will be called an anti-national. You said that particularly to this Kashmir issue.
No, I said it's not that if you remain silent. If you think it is not correct, it's not just this. Let's say you did not agree with demonetization, and it took us from where we were and to the economy that we are in now, which is one of the key reasons why we are in. But then knowingly, you knew that it was not in nation's interest. You now also know it is not in nation's interest, but you choose to keep quiet. Because maybe you put your party above, or you don't want to alienate your friends, or for whatever reasons. So but by keeping quiet on a matter that is affecting the nation adversely, you are actually putting your own interest above the nation. And if you are not an anti-national, then who you are? Because if the person who are supporting it, I can understand saying it in favor, he is thinking which is correct, and he is the person who is disagreeing and expressing is also fine. But a person who is disagreeing and knows that what is going in this country is not good for the country, and still choosing to keep quiet, I don't have any other term other than to call them that knowingly you are letting this country go down.
Yeah, the immediate response to your resignation is, as we heard you speaking, that people calling you out with allegations that there were memos issued, there were notices issued. We saw the same thing here in Karnataka. Mangaluru DC Senthil resigned, and immediately the allegation started. They said that he was involved in some scam, he was involved in some misappropriation. All were fake, of course. It was all busted. But then was it expected? Did you expect that some sort of this with?
Of course, I think it would have been foolish to not expect. Okay. Once you decide to get out and say things, and there will be a backlash. If you don't expect a backlash, at least of this extent, then I did not expect a wire agency, India, IANS. That was a little shocking for me, because they gave out an article saying that I resigned because of this, memo, without even seeking my response. Not carrying a response is fine. They did not even seek. So what they did was that by doing that, because it's a wire service, all the newspapers who are subscribing to that wire service, everybody carried it. Even those newspapers who are thoroughly discussed on that memo issue, interviewed everything, they also carried it because it's a wire service. So that is a cynical, sort of a thing. And I really lost respect for the journalists who are there in IANS at that point of time, because knowingly you would set out to tarnish a person without seeking this thing. But those are fine. As you now know, I've repeatedly told after the memos were like, I went to Kerala for flood relief, I did not give a tour report, I did not apply for Prime Minister's Excellence Award, there was a delay in putting up a file, there was the work which was supposed to be completed in 18 months, they gave me a show cause notice saying that why it was not completed in 3 months. 120 crore underground cabling project. Imagine a city underground cabling project. They're saying you did not complete in 3 months. It's okay. You want to give something, you will give. I'm okay with it. But I'm happy also those memos came out, because it's over. Whatever had to come, and I could actually explain the amount of work we did. Because as a reply to the memo, all I explained was these were the 20 responsibilities I was having, and this is the amount of work. We turned around a company in 1.5 years, Discom, during that period. From a 74 crore loss to a 13 crore profit in that period. So it is perfectly fine for it to come out. The allegations are fine. I was only disappointed with the news, the wire agency, because I expected a bit of decency from them. But allegations will come and go only after. Now the only thing is that I have to engage a little more time with the people, because first I have to dispel this thing and then go on to the issues concerned. That's all. So a little bit of time is gone in personal thing, which I could have otherwise avoided, and got on to the issues. But it also helps people to know me as a person when you don't know what has happened and what is the things that you have done. So
there's one set of criticism when you quit, and which followed by Senthil's resignation, is that not all get a chance to be an IAS officer. And basically, public have an assumption that being an IAS officer is Indian Administrative Service, or you call it All India Service. It is to serve the people. When you got a chance to serve the people and you don't do it and you quit, this is the set of argument I'm saying.
Fine.
And they say that is that the case, that serving a few thousands people is not as important as serving an entire nation? Or do you want to, my larger question is, picking from that criticism, are you eyeing at an activism in the near future? Because if you were to serve the people of any district, you would have become a district collector. From there you would have become secretary of in the state. You would have gone up the rank by principal secretary, chief secretary. Would you believe that you would go far from the people at the service point of view in all India service categories?
So to answer that, actually I was in a private sector. I am an electrical engineer. I was in VLSI. And then we were working in this thing when I got involved in an NGO, and then we both, in fact my wife was also there, we both were working, and then we did not find, at one place it was successful, another place it was not. So that's when she said we want to, maybe we can try to get into service, because being in the system you can make changes, we can serve people. Yes, that's how I got into the service, no doubt, to get into the system to serve the people. And I did in Delhi, in Myanmar, in Nathial, in Aizawl, as a district collector in Aizawl, then as a district collector and so many other charges in Dadra and Nagar Haveli. I did my level best. But when at certain time, you think, such issues, times come in the government's, the country's time, when you think you going on doing what you are is sort of validating what is happening in the country. That minor thing, with small things that you are able to do, the good things, is what is effectively the most important thing that you have to do. This is also because we have two aspects. We think the service delivery as sort of a supply driven thing, that good officers come. It is a charity of the good officers. Governance is the charity of good officers. So people are asking, if good officers like you leave, who will do that is because you have left it to people like us to do whatever we want. Because it is a supply driven system, assume it was a demand driven system. It wouldn't have mattered whether I am in the chair or somebody else is in the chair or the third person is in the chair. You would always get an 80% delivery. It might change 5% here and there. It will not vary from 10% to 90%. And this supply driven system is not sustainable. I might go, somebody else would come, and it will change some completely different. So the demand has to be created for anything, and the demand has to be created on the outside of the system. A right, fundamental right, is the key aspect. Everything else, every service, everything comes from that. And when, as a nation, an entire nation decides that they are going to ignore what is happening to a population, and when their fundamental rights are we have collectively decided we will not respond to that, then it was difficult for me to conscientiously serve in that. It's like continuing would have been validation of what is happening. I simply did not want to be part of the government which is ready to take away the fundamental rights of a people. I did not want to be. I did not know what to do next then. I was so clear, I did not want to, and I wanted to speak out about it. Okay, it's not a chance to serve. I actively got into this to serve.
Yeah.
It's not a chance. And it's not like a jail term that once you enter, you can't get out.
True.
It's by choice you got in. You wanted to serve. You did serve. You wanted to serve a larger set of people or a different set of causes. That's how you get out.
The activism part which I asked, do you intend?
You see, I have been for the past 3 months, I've been traveling to, past couple of months, I've been traveling to different places, talking to people and telling them one thing, that why is it important for us to stand up with Kashmiris? This othering has to stop, that Kashmiris are some other people with whom we should not have any, then it is not national integration, it's clear alienation. Yeah. So let's not say then, Kashmiris are part of this country. If they are, then we should stand up for them. So that's what I've been trying to do. Let's do that. Let's at least stand up for them and say this, we are there, that would have been the biggest thing. If I'm able to do even 2% of it, that would have been the biggest thing. That for serving 100, retiring as secretary would have, useless. If I'm able to do this a little bit part, when I got a message from a Kashmiri saying that even if Kashmir burns, you will have a house in Kashmir. That one message is sufficient to justify that, that one person feeling that yes, there is somebody in this country. We have failed. I'm sorry to say, we have collectively failed them. We have collectively called them terrorists. We have passed on memes saying that we can marry Kashmiri girls now. We have made memes saying that we can invest and purchase land in Kashmir now. All sort of things. We have been thoroughly insensitive to them. Yeah. As I couldn't stand that, and we as a people failed. And government might do X, Y, Z. It doesn't matter. Governments have made mistakes throughout. Governments have failed throughout. But when as a nation we fail, it's difficult to get back from there. And that's why it is important for us to, or individuals, whoever be it, to say that no, this is not done.
Okay, one last question. I've been seeing your tweets on your concerns about the VVPAT.
Yeah.
I'll just explain it in a bit so that my question can be clearer, because the time is very short. I know that the earlier there used to be EVM and the control unit, and whatever.
I can explain if it's okay.
Your concern with the VVPAT is that now VVPAT has got the entire attention.
Yes.
And because VVPAT is fed with certain part of information like the name and the symbol of the candidate from an outside source,
yes,
there is always a possibility of people still not knowing whether the chit that they found in VVPAT actually has gone to the...
Perfect. You understood it very clearly.
I understood. Yeah. Now my question is that, of course, because I'll explain it to my readers later, because the time is short. I now understand that the VVPAT is the most suspicious thing in the entire electoral process.
Yes.
What do you intend to do with that? Because I have one question with regard to the 2019 elections. We all know that the Election Commission has not come out with the mismatch part completely.
Okay.
Are you intend to do anything with the 2019 results? Number two, what is going to happen in the future elections with regard to VVPAT? We have got elections in Haryana and Maharashtra. Do you intend to carry out some kind of awareness programs or anything with regard to VVPAT?
See, I would say what has happened with I'll take 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Earlier there was a ballot unit and a control unit.
Yes.
And the citizens, the voter, did not know what was going from the ballot unit to the control unit.
Yep.
So the effective issue was, voter did not know what was going to the control unit.
Yeah.
Okay. To solve this, we brought a VVPAT in between.
Yeah.
Now the voter knows what is going from the ballot unit to the VVPAT. But he still does not know what is going from VVPAT to the control unit. So the original question of
remains
what is going to the control unit remains as it is.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. No change there.
Yes.
So without solving anything, we have now introduced something called as VVPAT.
Yeah.
Now earlier you had a ballot unit and control unit which electronically did not know the candidate's name, symbol.
It's random.
Yes. As a machine,
Yeah.
this machine was candidate agnostic, if I could say.
Yeah.
It simply did not know which candidate is 1, 2, 3, which party is 1, 2, 3.
True.
Now we have brought the VVPAT machine. The VVPAT, since you are loading these symbols, 1, 2, 3, 1 is Congress, 2 is, the symbol.
Hours before the election.
Not hours before the election. That is actually some 15, 20 days before the election.
Okay.
So at the time of commissioning.
Okay.
So 15 days or, it depending on the campaign period that time. So at that point of time, you are loading these things onto the.
Symbols
So
and
now
names.
as a machine as a whole, it knows candidate 1 is Congress, candidate 2 is, it can know. I'm saying it knows, or by the symbol. 1 is Congress, second is BJP, third is JDS, or whatever he wants.
Knows it in order, by order.
By order it knows.
Yeah.
Okay, now the third thing is, earlier these two machines were never connected with an external device, this ballot unit and control unit.
Yeah.
Now to load these symbols, we connect it with a laptop or a jig and have an external device, a wire, connect it to VVPAT.
VVPAT. Yeah.
So now we are loading something onto the VVPAT after the candidate sequence is known.
Yeah.
Okay, so now all that you have to do is that VVPAT will print whatever the ballot is pressed, so the voter would know, okay, yes, it is correct. But the VVPAT can send something else to the control unit. We don't know, because we don't know the internal schematics of the VVPAT. I'm assuming the worst case analysis.
Yeah.
Okay, so the VVPAT can actually, as a black box, send something else to the control unit. The voter will not know.
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing, VVPAT is the one now is controlling the perception and also the actual vote.
Yeah.
The ballot unit is useless.
Yes.
It presses, it comes to the VVPAT. VVPAT prints, the person is happy, okay, everything is fine. And VVPAT is actually also the one which is sending it to the as a black box. It's a control unit.
Yeah.
It is controlling the perception, it is controlling the actual vote.
Yeah.
And this is connected to an external device.
Yeah.
Okay, and this has a programmable memory. That's why we are able to load these pictures of symbols. That's how we are able to print those. It has a printer, it has a sensor, it has a processor.
Easily hackable.
It's a full system,
Yeah.
and which is connected to a external
Also,
device.
yeah.
So then all this physical check and process security checks that we used to claim with the earlier process is now no more there. And thing is that the process checks of mock polls are also effectively compromised with this, because it can know that 50 polls are checked on the day of poll. Okay, so it's the program simply
Can be
needs to be
programmed that way.
Yeah, that first 50 poll be correct, and after that it starts.
Maybe even for 200.
200, whatever you feel like.
Yeah.
Put a buffer. Only way it could have been caught is if you had started tallying 100%, the VVPAT and this thing. But we only tally 5.
Yeah.
Okay, let's assume there is an only by-election is happening. One by-election is happening. There are 200 polling stations, and there is one booth in which you are doing this. Okay, and the margin is this is 800. Okay, the chances of that one coming in that 5 is very less.
Yeah.
In out of 200, very less. And if the margin is 800, you will never know actually whether it was a fair election or not.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of whether it is hacked. It is like an RO could never be 100% sure that it was not hacked.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. And it's not BJP or Congress hacking it. Let's say China wants to hack it, or a Pakistan wants to hack it.
Some external country wants to hack our
Yes,
elections.
because that's how the elections are being now. Because
with the Trump's,
yes,
thing.
with the people are trying to do this.
Yeah.
If somebody else, so now it's not just an issue of this thing. It's also a issue of national security,
Yeah.
and all parties should be concerned. So we should tally A is equal to B, that is ballot unit is equal to VVPAT, that is checked by the voter. Ideally, the responsibility of B is equal to C, that VVPAT is equal to control unit, should have been checked by us. But just by saying that it will take 2 more days or 3 more days, we are not doing it. Earlier, without this thing, without this hacking possibility, this 5 thing was a confidence building measure. It was just to say that nothing has gone wrong. But now this is the only way we can check that all the things are correct. So we have to do 100% now. And either we go back to pre-VVPAT era or we go for 100% tally. I don't think in 2019. I'm not saying anything was hacked. It has never been my claim that anything has. And my claim is only this, that it can be the way it is without knowing the internal schematics, the black box method. The worst case analysis says it can be hacked, and the worst case analysis also says there is a good chance we will not catch the hacking. Okay, this is sufficient enough a concern for me that we all should be bothered, and we all should be asking the commission.
No, I asked you 2019 because the election commissioner still has not been able to
I
convincingly
think
tell.
there are 8 mismatches is what they have said.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
the details are yet to come out. The scrutiny details are all yet to come. I think we have to be more transparent on all these issues.
Yeah. And about the future.
The future is
On the
again.
VVPAT.
I have put this on the out. It's the issue with this is that election is no more a citizens issue. Election is a political parties issue. So the commission responds not when citizens raise it. Commission
With
responds
political
only when
parties.
political parties raise it. Because they, it is like the political parties say that okay, we all trust this. Then nobody, citizen doesn't trust or not. It shouldn't be like that. It's as much my issue as much as it your issue than a political party or a BJP or Congress issue. But when we are raising it, it's dismissed. But it is for the political parties to see whether they want to raise it or not. My responsibility was to put it out in the public so that people are aware that there is a serious flaw in the design, as I see on a worst case analysis. And whether we want to ignore it and go ahead with it, fine. If you don't want to do it, you want to raise it, improve it, fine. It's for the nation to decide.
On that note, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Speaking to Pratidhwani.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ವಿಡಿಯೋಗಳಿಗೆ ಪ್ರತಿಧ್ವನಿ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಚಾನೆಲ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬೆಲ್ ಐಕಾನ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ.